Good morning, welcome back to United TV. Latest Manchester United news. We've got Hackney to Everton, Manchester United Hackney deal off. It looks Alex Scott talks begin. We can go through that story as well. Lots of updates from David Ornstein this morning, so we get to use a bit more credibility in terms of where the sources are coming from, which is always great to see. And Manchester United, Mateus Fernandes. It looks like negotiation with Mateus Fernandes is going to be ongoing, and it's going to come down to Manchester United trying to get the best possible price. And it's going to come down to West Ham also trying to get the maximum amount they can get at the deal. West Ham need to raise money. Manchester United are probably the front runner for the Matheus Fernandes deal. And it looks like Bruno Fernandes, an idol for Matheus Fernandes, Manchester United back in the Champions League. There's lots of reasons why Matheus Fernandes looks at Man United as a good option. So I feel quite relaxed regarding that one. A lot of people were getting maybe a bit overexcited and maybe a bit concerned about what was going to happen regarding trying to get Hayden Hackney. And this is a big update from David Ornstein regarding Hackney as well. And at the moment, there was actually, if you remember in January, there was lots of links between Spurs and Hayden Hackney, and that's why we knew the price in January was going to be about 30 million. It looks like Everton currently lead the race. It looks like Manchester United are not really going to be pursuing the deal for Hackney. So, I mean, yesterday I did say that the fact that Man United are talking and considering Hackney is just sensible business. You've got to look at all the options out there. So I'm not surprised that Manchester United have spoken to Hackney. I mean, Michael Carrick, I guess if Man United move for Hackney, that would be an endorsement from Carrick that he thinks is a good option. But it looks like Manchester United are not going to be in for him. And so, to be honest, I'm not really surprised. I think it's just always going to happen that Man United start looking at different players and looking at people. So, no, pretty good update, I think, in terms of this story as well. I'm a bit more enthusiastic about Alex Scott than I am Hayden Hackney, and I'd say I'm probably more enthusiastic about Alex Scott than Edison from Atalanta as well. So there's a few different things to say about this one. My question would be also, what do people think about these deals as well? Because every time we have a story, I think a lot of people are going to be probably quite reactive, thinking it's going to be like this is where Man United's window is going to go. I'm I'm at the moment quite relaxed. We're looking 2nd of June. The transfer window opens in 9 days. I think what we're seeing here is that every single day we're probably going to see a slightly different story. We're going to start getting a better picture of what Manchester United actually want to do. So at the moment, it looks like Manchester United are interested in Alex Scott. And the situation with Alex Scott is his contract runs till 2028. And Bournemouth wants him to sign an extension, but this looks like it's the time to get the deal done here because it looks like Alex Scott will not sign an extension with Bournemouth, and also probably the end of a little era for Bournemouth. Areola got probably the maximum out of that squad. We're going to see again lots of players leaving the club. Alex Scott won, Senesi. You probably got Tyler Adams as well leaving, and maybe Trafford being linked to clubs as well. So I think we're going to see the same sort of situation we saw last year. More players leaving Bournemouth. It's going to be difficult for them to replace all these players. The question, really, I suppose, is going to be how much is this deal going to cost? It's obviously going to cost more than Hayden Hackney. It's probably going to cost more than Edison. It should be, for me, I would not be surprised if we're looking at a cheaper deal than, even though Bournemouth have not got relegated and had a very successful season. I think Alex Scott will probably be slightly cheaper than Matheus Fernandes. That's kind of my kind of initial reaction. I think if you remember when we talked about Alex Scott, probably a while ago now, then yeah, as Alex said, it's probably the right time to move for a player like Alex Scott. He's had a very good season. You could look at the last few games of the season. He was controlling matches against Man City. He was playing very well. I think obviously it's going to be a step up in pressure and expectations during Manchester United. But in terms of players we're looking at, if Manchester United, we got a bit of evidence in front of us in terms of what the strategy is. If Manchester United finished this transfer window with, say, Tonali, Alex Scott, Matheus Fernandes, I would be quite enthusiastic about that. I know people have different views. I think too many feels a little bit like an unrealistic proposition at the moment. I wouldn't be talking too much about too many because of the difficulty. The fact he doesn't want to leave Real Madrid. So for me, I would be moving past him and looking at these deals where Alex Scott is probably the right sort of player to get. He's had a very good season. He is on the up. He's still quite young. he's looking to step up to Manchester United, and I think this would be a good option. The reason why I quite like the Tonali deal is I think you need a bit of experience and a bit of balance in that squad. And if we're looking at experience, you probably got, I suppose, Edison, Tchouaméni, and Tonali are the three players linked with Manchester United with experience. I think Angela Stiller, I've not heard a thing about him for a while, so I'm assuming, not necessarily definitely, but I'm assuming that the Alex Scott deal is more likely than someone like this one. So let's go through a few of the comments as well. If you're able to share the stream, please do that as well. Scott sounds good, says Viril. So, and DJ, good to see you in the chat, DJ as well, says, I'm really liking Alex Scott. I think Hayden Hackney will go to Everton. Yeah, no, that Ornstein's update was Hayden Hackney most likely to go to Everton. To be honest, that doesn't really surprise me that I thought Hackney would definitely go to a club. And my guess was going to be look around the middle of the Premier League. You probably got like Nottingham Forest were definitely linked to him, I think, yesterday, and people said about that a week ago. So there's definitely a few clubs looking at Hayden Hackney. It seems to be that if you look at the top, say, 4 or 5 players in the championship, and Hackney has definitely been on the radar for a while, I think these players will move to Premier League clubs. I think what's will be interesting is the one that I'm not sure on is Vitek. If he leaves Bristol City, he's been one of the top players in the championship this season. Is he going to go to get first team football somewhere? I think he could do that, and it would be a difficult decision for Man United to decide what they're doing with him and try and convince him to stay at United. But no, I think this is something that's maybe what's happening is say the bottom 5 teams in the Premier League, and the top 5 teams in the Championship. I think a lot of players there's a lot of similar qualities in some of these players. So whenever a team gets relegated from the Premier League, a lot of their good players leave, like Mateus Fernandes, for example, probably due, and maybe 1 or 2 other players will leave West Ham, and they will quite often go to Championship clubs coming up. I think if Alex Scott, if Bournemouth got relegated, Alex Scott is definitely leaving. I think Alex Scott is leaving now mainly because the contract situation means that Man United can maybe negotiate a decent price. So to give you like some numbers, and it's going to be a bit of a guess regarding how much he costs at the moment, but it looks like Manchester United initially about a month ago now, they valued Alex Scott at about £50 million. I think Bournemouth are trying to put a higher price tag of about 65, but to be honest, like the contract situation, like I think 65 is too much considering, if nothing gets done, he's going to enter the last year of his contract next, and then the fee will start dropping down quite a lot. Also, I don't see a lot of competition for Alex Scott at the moment. I see more competition for Matheus Fernandes, and I think it might be an indication that there's a few top targets out there that are going to cost quite big money. And it's going to depend on how much Man United want to go for these deals, whether they can get it done. Um, so Alex Scott has had injuries, has he? So somebody commented that Alex Scott. Let me just double check with Alex Scott because I don't know exactly off the top of my head how many games he's played. So let's have a look at this one. So Alex Scott at Bournemouth, how many games has he been playing recently? It's always like difficult to judge when a player's like the age he is, he's 22 years old, then it depends on what injuries he's had. Also, interesting fact, he came through Bristol City as well, Alex Scott, and we're talking about about Vitek. A lot of no, Andy Cole came through Bristol City as well, so a lot of quality coming through that team. But 3 years at Bristol City, he's been at Bournemouth since 2023. This season he played in almost every single game for Bournemouth. So I think initially potentially some issues. Maybe last season he's only playing 20 games in the Premier League. This season he's played nearly every single game. In the Championship, when he was a younger player, he played 42 games 1 season. So I think if you're looking at as a teenager, then he was playing a huge amount of football. To be honest, actually, playing nearly 200 games for a player that's 22, he's played quite a lot of football. So I think this has probably been good for him that he's been in the right place to develop. And I think this is why when you look at that, not all 22-year-olds have got the same level of experience. And I think Alex Scott is one of these players that, despite being quite young, has played a lot of football from a young age. So this is why I think you're getting a player that's maybe going to be a bit closer to being ready than some players when you're looking at quite young players. So no, I think it's on the face of it, it's quite an exciting option, and I do quite like this deal. But I did think it's worth talking about because this is it's something that's a pivot from what Man United have been looking at, and it's something that's a little bit different from the players we've been talking about. But Alex Scott has certainly been, on the radar for a little while now. So let me go through a few of these comments as well. Be up Cody in the chat. You think Scott talks are a bluff for Fernandes? I don't think there's any need to bluff. Like what we're doing here, like as Man United, I don't think Man United is bluffing. I think Manchester United will buy Mateus Fernandes. They're in serious negotiations with him. That Alex Scott is the, they're going to buy multiple players, and most people are thinking we're going to buy three midfielders. I don't think there's any sort of need for Manchester United to be bluffing anything here. If you look at it, Manchester United, Mateus Fernandes, it's pretty much all the stories that are coming out regarding Mateus Fernandes are revolving around how much he's going to cost. And this is because Manchester United are just in negotiation with West Ham at the moment. So they're probably discussing over how much the deal's going to cost. And I think United need to get an idea of what offer will be accepted. So I'm at the situation now where when people talk about Man United, I don't think Man United are going to be bluffing. What they're doing really is they're finding out how much these deals are actually going to cost. Whether if the players are interested in joining Manchester United, which we know Matheus Fernandes is definitely interested in joining Manchester United, West Ham are going to want the most money because they've got some financial issues. I believe it might be that West Ham might have to pay some money. They might have some like imminent issues as well regarding debt. And they did put out something saying that West Ham would have to pay maybe 50, maybe, I see, no, 100 or 150 million pounds. They got some like outstanding debt they need to take care of as well. So West Ham have got some financial issues. They want to get the best possible price. Manchester United are in negotiation. West Ham don't give a crap if Man United are interested in Alex Scott because we could quite possibly buy both of these players. It might be that we don't even buy Edison. So I think Edison is definitely a player that I was trying to see some positives about that deal. But Alex Scott for me would be a better deal, and it could be that Man United are going to be. I would be genuinely surprised if we're not even linked to more players in the coming days, and we just eventually just choose a few of them. I think Matheus Fernandes has got to be probably for me like one of the top people on the list. I think from Man United's perspective, I think we are serious about this deal. I mean, I don't think we're going to be. I don't think we were ever that serious about Hayden Hackney. And interestingly, the story for the Hayden Hackney did come out from quite a good journalist in the Northeast that doesn't put out. There wasn't any sort of clickbait thing regarding Hackney. It was genuine interest. But again, genuine interest does not does not mean that Man United are going to buy that player. So I'd say that based on Ornstein, and he's usually quite credible. He's usually quite on the money. Maybe it is going to be an Everton move, which would be probably guarantee a first team football, play alongside James Garner. Could be a good move for him. If you're looking at the other teams interested, Spurs interested. If I was Hackney, you probably get more money at Spurs. Like you probably would get a higher salary, but Spurs are very disjointed at the moment. They've been dreadful this season. There is potential that you could say that maybe the last five games of the season Spurs improved, but I think if you're choosing where to go, Everton might be quite a reliable option at the moment, but no. So how much would people be happy if Manchester United got a deal done for Alex Scott? What would be a sensible price? Because at the moment, Manchester United would probably say about 50, but we also said about 40 for Matheus Fernandes. That's not going to happen, is it? So I think that the middle ground for Matheus Fernandes feels like about 55, 60 million kind of deal that they want more, obviously. I think when you start looking at Alex Scott, Bournemouth put a price tag of about 65. For me, that means that Man United can probably get this deal done for at least £10 million cheaper than that. And it's going to be one of those deals where if Alex Scott has got 5 years on his contract, I think it's like 60 million. If he's only got 2 years, like which he has, then there doesn't seem to be other clubs interested in Alex Scott at the moment, as far as I can see. The big thing for Man United here would be if you want to get Alex Scott and the players interested, I think this deal could be done for a bit cheaper than other deals have been done as well. So, Alex, yeah, Andy said we need options in midfield, and so you don't want the same types of players. I think Man United are looking at a range of players, aren't they? And when you look at it, they are different players as well. I don't think Man United want to. I don't think Man United want a direct replacement for Casemiro either. I think they'd want to play slightly different. So yeah, it's not going to be. not going to be too much of a problem. So we always get this hype of United supposedly chasing all these players. I think with this one that regarding hype, I think a lot of people that realise now that Man United, this is the first time we're actually rebuilding midfield from scratch, effectively. So this isn't about finding one player to fit the gap of what we got. We effectively have no midfield, like going into next season. We just got Kobe Mainoo. So in terms of like what Man United are doing, this is the reason why we're looking at loads of different options because we have to try and build a squad and we have to try and build a squad that in midfield pretty much from scratch. So Edison is coming no matter what. So Scott is most likely Tonali replacement. So it could be that Man United are looking at that regarding Tonali. I have got a Newcastle fan coming on the channel tomorrow evening. So with this one, I'm hoping that we find a bit more, or maybe there's some stories to talk about regarding Tonali tomorrow. So I will focus probably on a few players tomorrow, maybe Tonali. We possibly could talk about Bruno Guimaraes if there's anything in that one, but I think Lewis Hall will be definitely another story. And we could maybe ask him about Gordon, how he saw that deal happening and what's going on there. But I think that the key thing with like the Tonali one is now you've got players leaving Newcastle. Would maybe this is something that could be happening as well? Is that if Edison's coming no matter what, and to be honest, it seems to be that that's the most likely deal. If we're going to guess, that's the deal where Manchester United have pretty much agreed almost everything. It's just a case of like signing the deal. So if Edison is like almost a done deal, then Manchester United are working out what to do around that in terms of building the midfield. Maybe what they're looking at here is if they don't get Tonali, I mean, I've said this, I think Tonali would be a good player. I think Alex Scott would be a good player. I think Mateus Fernandes would be a good player. If you got those three players and you're going to choose two of them, if you chose Alex Scott and you chose Matheus Fernandes, but it meant that you could get Lewis Hall, then for me, suddenly that opens it up the window and makes it a bit more interesting. So if you're looking at what Man United is trying to do, then do you need to spend 100 million or 80 million or 90 million on Tonali when you can actually get a cheaper deal and actually maybe then get Lewis Hall as a left back option as well? And if that's the alternative, I would probably say for me, I think Tonali is good, but I don't really see a drop off of Alex Scott in terms of like what's going to be happening regarding potential. So I think a lot of it's going to come down to what would be the best for the team in one transfer window? How much can we fix as well? So let me know what you think about what would be the best option for Man United. And if you're able to share the stream, like I said, please share the stream. We're trying to grow the channel back to where it used to be. So we need you guys help to do that. If you're able to share it on social media, that would be perfect. And don't forget to click the like as well. So the issue for Man United is sales. If we can actually offload all these players, we make money and save a fortune in wages. I think with this one, Man United have already saved a fortune. Curlers, like in terms of like saving money, most of the big contracts have left the club now. So Sancho's contract expires, Casemiro's contract's off the books. That's over 700k per week. So those deals that they're off the table already. Marcus Rashford will not be at the club either, so his salary's not been paid by Man United for a while now. So that saving's already been made. The wage bill's already come down 40%. The profits are already going up. So these savings have already happened. It hasn't been widely reported, but over the last few months, Manchester United have paid 100 million of repayments in terms of like lowering like one of their debts as well. So they have been doing a few things behind the scenes. Financially, Man United don't have much of a problem in the short term. Some of these deals might be in this financial year. Some of these deals might be kicked on to the next financial year. There's going to be a huge boost from Champions League money. So I think financially, there's not a problem. Like I know that every club runs with debt. Man United, they've got a lot more money coming in than other clubs. So for me, it's not an issue. But also, we're not talking about spending crazy amounts of money here, are they? We're looking at sensible deals and what we are looking at is maybe deals done a bit differently to how Man United used to do deals a couple of years ago, where we would spend massive money. And if we go from like Tonali to an Alex Scott and get somebody for 55 million instead of like an 80 or 90 million pound deal, and get you could actually feasibly if you spend 50 million pounds on Lewis Hall and maybe put some add-ons there, which kicks the transfer fee into next year a bit as well. And Alex Scott for again 50 plus add-ons, you could potentially get Alex Scott and Lewis Hall for the same sort of money, actually less money than Anderson, the same sort of money as Tonali. That for me is actually quite good business. So if Man United did end up doing that, that for me would represent an improved transfer policy. I know people say you've got to get the best possible players. I think Alex Scott, Tonali, Anderson, I don't think there's a massive drop off between like the top target, whoever you think's the top target, and the other players. I don't think there's that much difference in some of these. So we still have Anthony. We don't have Anthony. Anthony got sold a year ago, Carlos. Anthony's gone. Rashford's gone as well. But, Rashford's. We're not going to be paying his contract, are we? He's going to go somewhere else, and it's probably going to be Barcelona, and they're probably going to work out a deal at some point. But the money will be coming in. If I was Alex Scott, would you not have moved with Ario to Liverpool? I don't know why. If you're Alex Scott, if you're going to follow, I don't think players follow a manager because managers do not stay at a club very long. So if you're Areola, look at Slot. Slot won the Premier League. He still got sacked after 2 years. If you go to Chelsea, you're going to get sacked after a year. Um, Liverpool are buying different players. So the fact that Liverpool are not going to buy players just because they played for a certain manager, they've already got. I think their targets. They've bought Verts already. They're going to buy Adam Wharton. I don't think Alex Scott gets into Liverpool's team, so I don't know why he'd be a consideration for them either. I think with some of these as well that to say that to say that some players are certain players, it depends as well. I think everybody knows that if you look at Tonali at if you look at Tonali in the first part of his career, where he's playing in Italy, and look at Tonali at Newcastle, that it's night and day. Like the way that Newcastle play is completely different to the way Man United would play. So whatever Tonali does in Newcastle, I would just ignore it. That Man United are not looking at what Newcastle do to and how we rate their players. We're looking at what those players can do and what they could do in a certain environment at Manchester United. So I think when people are looking at is this player a six? Is this player an eight? I think it's a bit like having the conversation regarding Kobe Manu. Is Kobe Manu a six? Is Kobe Manu an eight? Manchester United will use Kobe Manu in different positions according to what's required. And I think Manu will be an excellent player in either position. So I don't have any worry about him at Man United. So I think I would just forget about what the player's doing at the club they're currently playing at, because that's not what Man United are going to be interested in. I think the scouts will be looking at other things as well, what the player does under pressure, how the player responds in certain. Uh, and one of these things people were talking about, and I was talking to a couple of people that have worked with scouts recently, and they know a lot of scouts. And they're saying the things I'm looking for is there's not going to be a stat based thing where everybody in the world can look at pass completion, duel percentage, but a lot of things that scouts are looking at is now what do players do on the pitch in this environment? You've got these pass options. What's the decision making like? How are they in certain situations in the match? What are they doing in certain parts of the game as well? So I think there's a lot of things that to take the stats into it. I think there's so many stats there as well, and I think what you're looking at is just forget about what's happening regarding what's happening on the stats based of it because Man United we're using data for sure, but the scouts are doing their job and that's what they're looking at as well. So if we're signing a player, it's going to be partly data, partly stats, but it's going to be a lot of people scouting the players and working out how good they are. So, and what's the definition of a sensible deal? That's kind of an open-ended question, isn't it? I think you have to look at it and say, uh, a sensible deal for me is going to be one that has like, I would say that Aiden Heaven is an unbelievable deal, like beyond sensible. I think sensible deals are getting a decent price, but you're not overpaying. Also, I would say for me, a sensible price is going to be if you get a player at, say, if you get Alex Scott for 50 million, that's a sensible deal. I think Hayden Hackney for 30 million is a sensible deal. I think if you start paying over and over 125 million pounds for say one player, that doesn't transform your team into suddenly winning the title. I think Elliot Anderson, £125 million is not a sensible deal. I think if you lower the price closer to 100, you start getting closer to a sensible deal. But sensible deal is going to be different for every person, isn't it? Um, Cam's saying, stop, we're fixing the team in one transfer window, only need two mids. We have Kobe. I think Mason Mount will be here. Mason Mount's barely yet available, though. I think four midfielders and so you're thinking, I would say that if you want to fix midfield, I think two midfielders are not enough. Like Casemiro is going to go and Agate is going to go, and then that gives us that gives us actually less options than we had a year ago. So if you're thinking about how many competitions we're going to be in, what if we want to play 4-3-3 and we want to play? What if we want to use Tonali, Alex Scott, and Cole Mainoo in the same team? Or I think we need to get more than two midfielders. For me, we're going to replace Toby Collier. Christian Eriksen, Agate, Casemiro, that's four players going. I think we need three. If Man United just got midfield fixed and got a left back and a striker backup, that's only five players. I think that makes a big difference to our team as well. I don't think these are stopgap players either. I don't think Alex Scott, Mateus Fernandes are stopgap players. I think they're players that can grow with the team as well. The only one that maybe is it a stopgap to get someone like Edison in? That could be the only player that's potentially a stopgap player, but that would also be a player that could play for another 5 years anyway. So I think someone like Edison is not necessarily a stopgap because he would not be starting every single game either. So Heaven and Lamon's the best deals ever. Exactly. I think we're starting to do deals that are actually better deals than we've done for a long time, haven't we? So, and welcome to the chat, Neil. Hope you're doing well. And I just saw the word Galatasaray. We're talking about Agate. Then I think Agate, there is interest from him in Galatasaray. And to be honest, actually, Agate might do okay in the World Cup. But international football, a bit slower paced. And if there's going to be some hot weather as well, the games might be slower again. So I think he will do okay in that. And I think he'd be fine in the Turkish league. I think he'd be fine in Italy as well. So I would not worry too much about selling players. Manchester United don't want actually that much for Agate. And the reason why we got Agate, I think a lot of people have read the stories here that the reason why Man United got Agate was effectively to get the Euro deal done. I think it's an agent issue. So I think we're in terms of deals done, we've probably done them quite effective. It's a shame Agate wasn't a little bit cheaper, but yeah, we'll get 25 million, maybe some add-ons for him, and that he'll be gone. I think Xerxes will be gone as well, and this will be yeah. In terms of like sensible deals, I don't think Xerxes is a good signing, but I think at least the price was somewhat sensible. So Xerxes can be sold for the same amount of money. So for me, a poor deal is going to be something like Anthony for that amount of money. The contract that Sancho got put on, that was a poor decision. Now, some of the deals we've done recently, like say for example, people talking about Edison from Atalanta, I think that's quite a sensible deal. We're looking at 75k a week, which is a very low salary. That's half of like Maine's salary roughly. And if you're looking at a transfer fee of about 35 before add-ons, that again is pretty cheap in modern football. So, I mean, that's only like the same. That's paid for by Casemiro's salary, isn't it? Like the first instalment of that one. So, yeah, I think United are making better deals. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think we can fix everything in one window, but I think we can massively transform our squad if we get the right deals done. What do people think regarding like if Man United pivoted towards Alex Scott instead of Tonali? Because I think Yardi was on something there. I think that's a sensible that's kind of a sensible way of looking at it. And for me, I've always said I think the squad needs three midfielders, and I think it's not because I think a lot of people think it's because of like we're going to have a starter, we're going to have a backup. I think we're going to have options. And I think that's what we need. Do you remember Alex Ferguson when you bring out certain players and go, actually, okay, in this game, maybe we're going to see Fletcher do a job in this game. We're going to see Park come in this game, and we're going to see like Skulls will be in this game. That it's not about having the same team starting week in, week out. I think it's going to have different options. And if Manchester United look at what can Alex Scott do, what can Mainoo do, I see a lot of people saying we need to buy a defensive midfielder. And I think we've got Mainoo there who can be a defensive midfielder. If you look at Komenu under pressure against top teams, under pressure linking defense to midfield, Kobe Mainoo is, I think he's borderline world class at that. I see him making the correct decision almost like nine times, no, almost like 10 times out of 10. Like Kobe Mainoo gets the ball under pressure, doesn't give it away, doesn't give away a stupid, no, doesn't make a poor decision. He is genuinely amazing at that at the moment. So if you watch him against Liverpool, it probably goes under the radar a little bit. But until he went, when he goes forward, I think he's quite capable of doing that as well. So I think Mainu could be already a good enough CDM. I'm not saying that Man United shouldn't get other options as well because Mainu, I don't think should start every single game. But it could be that they go for a midfield trio of like new signings, and it might be that one of those players is also very good at defensive side of the game, and that's why I think they liked Anderson. I think Anderson could play deep, he could play in front of the back four, but he also has got some quality on the ball going forward. So I think it's going to be for me. It's not about having a player that's a six and a player that's an eight. I think it's about having good quality players that are going to be good on both sides. But if we had this conversation about Scholes and Keane, where would you say, how would you define Keane? Because a lot of people think Roy Keane is like that six, like breaking up, winning the ball back, making quality short passes and restarting attacks. But if you think about Roy Keane when he was younger, Roy Keane was a bit like McTominay was in his last season at Man United, crashing into the box, scoring goals, causing problems on attacking side of the game, but he wasn't as disciplined as he was in the latter part of his career. So I think the key thing about getting players like Alex Scott is they can be shaped somewhat like this. So you're saying Keane was a six, Scholes was an eight, but I used to go to Old Trafford from say about early 2000s, and you could see Scholes was like Scholes was a 10 at one point. Like Scholes was a second striker, and the Scholes was just getting deeper and deeper and having players further forward ahead of him. So I think Scholes is a player that you could drop Scholes as a six and he'd be fine. And if you drop Scholes as an eight, but the thing that Scholes had that was maybe something that Koemanu doesn't have is the range of passing. I think Koemanu's passing short game is exceptional, but the long range passing is something I think Roy Keane actually had some decent long range passing, but I think that's something that comes with time. And no, that's probably one thing. Like Manu has got things to work on this game. That's probably one of them. But I'm also looking at Alex Scott, thinking Alex Scott has got loads of quality as well. Yeah, Cam 35. They could literally do anything. I think you could have Scholes and Keane alternating. So that's kind of how Man United could look at it. Man United could look at two box to box players as well, and they could think, right, instead of having a six that's going to be maybe fixed more defensively, they could have like these multiple box to box midfielders. They could look at going to a 4-3 as well. So this is why I think United need to try and get as many midfielders as possible, but they have to be quality, don't they? And welcome to you, Don in Spain. It says Carrick wants to play, say, two eights. So Edison Fernandez. So Edison and Mania will work, having funds for Lewis Hall and a centre forward and more for the squad. So if you're looking at, say, you got the names you got there, Edison and Fernandez, Mainu. That's signing two midfielders for let's say less than 100 million, like Fernandez plus Edison, or maybe yeah, it might be actually it would be less than 100 million. So I think Fernandez will be. I'll be surprised if Fernandez costs more than 60. But certainly, maybe the add-ons could make it slightly over that. But I think it would be looking at more like a 55 plus add-ons, and we know the price for Edison's like 35. So yeah, they're going to be less than 100, maybe some add-ons for both deals, but it wouldn't be crazy money. And I think Alex Scott, you could get Alex Scott there, and we'd be talking about three midfielders for about 150 million. So yeah, I'd say Keane and Scholes would be worth more than 100 million today. That's the level we need to compete with City and Arsenal. I think with this one that if you think about Scholes and Keane, that when they were at the £100 million value, if you're going to put a price tag on them, then it would. I think Scholes was probably pretty. Actually, I'd say Keane was pretty close to that value when Man United signed him. He pretty much hit the ground running. I think Scholes like slowly became more and more valuable. Like Scholes in his first part of his career, he was definitely not the consistency and not as it was not dependent on as much as he was in the latter part of his career. But I think in terms of this one, that if you're looking at the quality of these players, I don't see. I'm just thinking with like Keane and Scholes, they're also a lot more capable of scoring goals than people like Alex Scott. I think Mateus Fernandes. It's kind of a bit unfair to compare them at this point in time because they, yeah, even like Eddie Anderson. I don't think Eddie Anderson carries the goal threat that Keane and Scholes did in the early part of their career. So it could be that at the moment, I don't think there is a Roy Keane around. That when you're saying we need this sort of level of player, I don't think I see a player in the modern game that is like Keane and Scholes. I don't think we see someone that's. We see a lot of people that are very good, but the short passing game and maybe trying to control games. I see that, but I don't see as many attributes in individual players that Keane had. I think Keane was a bit underrated as a player, considering that what he could do. I think Roy Keane maybe compromised on what he could offer offensively for control in matches, and he put the team first. And I think with Scholes as well, Scholes could have scored a load more goals if he wanted to. But again, I think he compromised a bit for the benefit of the team. So these are players that probably a lot of time played within themselves, but they were capable of a lot more attacking football. And I'm wondering whether I think Mainu might be the same sort of player in terms of I think Mainu might play deeper, control games, but we know that if you put Mainu further forward, he can definitely pick out passes, get assists, and score goals and finish. But I think maybe Mainu might be more useful in a deep line position. Let's say Alex Scott is again with this one. This is the most difficult part of it. If you're looking at players that have played effectively one season in the Premier League or two seasons maximum, it's very difficult to predict where these players are going to ultimately end up. Because, like Roy Keane, Scholes are two examples where they started as attacking players, more attacking, and then played a lot more defensively. You've got Gareth Bale, who started as a left back, was effectively a forward player towards the most of his career. And I think Dorgu's going to be the same sort as well. That Dorgu started as a left back, but he's definitely going to play a lot further forward. And it could be that you kind of almost need to forget what these players have done because it could be that sometimes you just play in different positions. It might just click in Manchester United. It might be that Kobe Mainoo actually plays further forward if we get someone like Tonali and Tonali sits at the back controlling things, or it might be vice versa. It might be that you have Kobe Mainoo sat deep controlling things, and you get players with maybe more mobility running in front of him. So I think it could work either way. The key is get these players in that are capable of doing multiple things. Um, welcome to chat, Hex. He says Alex Scott is young, but about what other midfielders on our list, him and Fernandes have the greatest upside. I think that is probably true because they probably got a bit more youth on their side. If you're thinking about Alex Scott, 22, you could actually say I think Carlos Baleba we haven't talked about him for a while because there hasn't been a lot of links. I think Carlos Baleba would definitely be in that category of he's got a potentially big upside, but there is question marks over a few things as well. So I think there's probably when Man United looking to invest, I think this will be the one window we get midfield players, and I think that's why Baleba will maybe miss out because it might be that there's a few more question marks over him. I think he's obviously technically a good player, and he would have a. I think he's going to have a good career. I'm not sure whether Brighton would be the best place for him to stay for too much longer. I think he might need a new team, but no, I think he was definitely going to have an upside as well. But in terms of Alex Scott, that it's just he's kind of like gone from being definitely on Man United's shortlist because I remember talking about him probably about I don't know quite a few months ago now, and I think people are starting to with Bournemouth. There's a lot of quality in that team. You got Krupi Jr., you've got obviously Alex Scott's part of that, but you had Semenyo. I think the first half of the season, everything at Bournemouth, Semenyo was taking all the headlines. And to us, when I was watching Bournemouth, I was looking at Semenyo mostly because he was a incredible player at the first half of the season, and we were linked to him, and we did say we were going to try and sign him. And I think Alex Scott, maybe for me anyway, he went under the radar a little bit, and I think the recent games, when you're watching him play, he was very, very good in the latter part of the season. And I can see why people really want to get him. It's difficult, isn't it, to try and pick a favourite, isn't it? So let's have a look at some of these comments. So again, this is one of the streams where please get in your comments and questions as well, and we'll try and go through all these as well. If you're able to share the stream, and if you are a new subscriber as well, let us know so we can welcome you to the community. Good morning to you, Kazi, as well. Good to see you in the chat. When players like Anderson and Tonali are available, you have to strike now, and you're set up for the next 5 or 6 years. So, do you think with this one, actually, you make a good point as well. I think there's a lot of evidence. If you think about Man United and how we play, Manchester United had very limited midfield options this season, and it pretty much took Casemiro leaving the club for Mason Mount to get back in the team. So you can tell from like the way Carrick's been playing over 18 games he played since January. You can tell that he doesn't really rate Mason Mount. He didn't really want Agate and Xerxes. These players were pretty much frozen out. So the fact these three players could leave and it barely affects what Michael Carrick was doing over the last 6 months, I think is indication that those players will be gone. I think Mason Mount, it's looking like loan deal, isn't it? Like don't loan deal to Coventry seems to be like where the smart money is. I think Mason Mount will get loaned out because he's got a big contract, and I don't think that Man United see him as he's definitely not part of the future. And I think Man United are going to be a bit more brutal now in terms of this one. Um, I think regarding like your comment about Man United going for players, I think that okay, this is kind of my guess of what's happening with the strategy is that Manchester United really like Anderson, they really like Tonali, but they also look at the price and think that this is too much money. Like Tonali's good, but is Tonali going to be like if you look at Alex Scott and Mateus, like Matheus Fernandes, and maybe like one or two other options as well, the difference between Fernandes and someone like Anderson, and I've spoken to people recently that think Fernandes is actually a better football player than Anderson already, then in 12 months' time, it could be completely the opposite. Like 12 months ago, everybody wanted Belieber. And you could go back 18 months and everybody wanted Wharton. And these players are not like suddenly spiking, suddenly dropping off. It's just that when you look at players, there's not massive difference between a lot of these football players. That it's not like if Man United signed Tonali, I'd be happy and go right. Tonali's a good football player. If United signed Alex Scott or they signed Anderson or like all these players, for me, all these players are. You can argue over who's got the best form at the moment, but career wise, I think we might be looking at similar quality. What we're looking at maybe is we've seen a bit more of Anderson. He's been playing in the same team for longer. And we could look at Wharton as well. And I think the only question over Wharton is potentially injuries. But I think with this one, like Cake, you make a good point that if the players are there, but I think we could set up our midfield up for the next like 5, 6 years by signing other players. I think there's probably about 8 players. If you got three of them, your midfield's gonna be fine. But it's like saying like if Man United didn't get Caicedo, you got Anderson, or you got Declan Rice, or you got there's all these other options as well that are players in the team. I don't think you necessarily need to have exactly that player. And I think Man United are just trying to send a statement to say, look, we're not going to pay crazy money when there's other players available. It's like we could easily have spent 30, 40 million pounds on a goalkeeper and we got Lamans. So you don't necessarily need to spend that much. Let's go through a few of the comments. I mean, I have got a Newcastle fan coming on the channel tomorrow who runs the YouTube channel Toon Tactics. So I'm hoping we can actually find out a bit more information about Tonali, Lewis Hall, why the hell Gordon went for like 70 million or something, but also find out what if Newcastle need to sell players. So we can get a lot of information tomorrow about Newcastle United, which might be interesting. Welcome to the chat. And so we need to heavily invest in to be in the Champions League next season. As they currently we're nowhere near Arsenal's squad, and they want to invest extensively. I think I'm going to say I disagree slightly with that one. I think Arsenal got strength in different positions. I think Manchester United and Arsenal similar quality goalkeeper. I think we've got a better striker. I think we've got a better attacking midfielder. So I would say if you're going to make a combined 11 of Arsenal, I think you could put Man United's attack and Arsenal's defence in there. The only one that attack wise gets in for me might be Saka, but I think Martinelli, I think we've got Cunha who's better. I think if you've got Gyökeres, we've got Benjamin Sesko that's better. I think Lamans and Raya for me are kind of similar. But I think Raya's obviously got more experience, so I think Lamans will get there. And then when we look at defensive options, I think Man United we're just rebuilding behind Arsenal. Arsenal got their defence sorted about 3 or 4 years ago when they bought Ben White and they bought Gabriel and Saliba. Man United, we're doing what Arsenal did. but just later on. So we've got Yoro, we've got Aidan Heaven. We need to get new fullbacks in. But if we got Lewis Hall and then when eventually we replace Dallo, I think we're kind of doing what Arsenal did, but we're doing it from the attack to start with. So we're building our team. We did get defensive options a year ago, I'd say 2 years ago, but they haven't been quite as effective. But also, we've gone younger, so it's going to take time. If you remember Arsenal, when they got Saliba, Saliba could barely get in the team for ages, and Saliba was loaned out. So Arsenal have taken a while to get to this point in time. I think difference is going to be, I think Arsenal also have maybe a more effective midfield, but this is what Man United are going to be building. I think also Arsenal need to get some goal scorers in that team. They need to get some more threat. So I think that's quite a difficult thing to buy. I think at the moment, going into the transfer window in 2026, I think it's quite easy to build a midfield. There's literally so many options available. If Arsenal want to get a striker in the squad, I think there's limited options regarding strikers. So I think Arsenal got a more difficult job. I think United, the players we want to buy, we need to get a new left back really, and I think there's a good left back on the market in Lewis Hall if we're prepared to go for 50 million. And I think that no, I do agree with you that Arsenal are obviously more advanced as a team, and they probably have better bench options. But it's quite difficult to it's difficult to compare teams. I think we're kind of similar, but they've got strength in different positions. So over a league campaign, I think Arsenal are more effective because the defense is a lot more reliable. Over like one-off cup games, and like say if Man United play against Paris Saint-Germain, I think we can sit and defend deep like we did against Arsenal, but I think we've actually got a lot more threat than Arsenal on the attack. So I think in a way we would actually we would be more effective against Paris Saint-Germain because we are more effective on the counter attack. I think Arsenal are generally better in a league campaign at the moment because they're boring but they're reliable. Like they've got consistency of performance and they've got maybe 4 or 5 people on the bench that are very comparable quality to their first 11. That's what we haven't got actually. We've got a first 11 that can beat Arsenal and can beat City and Liverpool, but we don't have like 5 or 6 people sat on the bench that that are the same quality as our starters. That's the difference, and that's to be honest, that's probably near impossible to get in one window. I think we can fix the first team, and maybe what we can see is the bench could then be comprised of a few people that were in the first team originally, but to get the extra depth will definitely take another season. Camp 35 saying some positive stuff about Belieber. He could be the next Michael Essien. The thing about Belieber is, I mean, Michael Essien was such a player for like a few years. I think with this one, that's obviously a sky high comparison because Essien was like one of the best players in the Premier League for a couple of seasons. I think with Belieber, he's got a very high ceiling, and I think also Mateus Fernandes has got a very high ceiling. And you look at Alex Scott, he's got a high ceiling. I think the difficulty is going to be is if you sign 2 or 3 of these players, this is why I'm kind of relaxed about it. I think they're all going to get better. So the fact that they're already good, they're already the best players. Probably you could I don't know overhype it, but you could say they're some of the best players in the world at that age. And the fact that they're already proved that they can be quite successful in the Premier League at that age, I think means that if you get these players in, I think it's going to be a safer option than going for, say for example, it's Edison from Atalanta. It might be almost a done deal, and I've kind of accepted that that might be our first signing. But I don't think it's going to be one that he's not going to improve in the Premier League. He's not going to join the Premier League at age 26, 27 and find a new level. But he is going to be like a reliable option. He is going to be one of those players that could be on the bench that isn't a massive drop off. So it could be a bit of depth. And for me, that as a third midfield signing, it's fine. But I'd be more enthusiastic about going for, say, Alex Scott or even Hayden Hackney would be slightly a better deal for me than Edison in the long term. It might be in the short term that a bit of experience is beneficial, but I'm just thinking medium term for myself. But I've said it over that for a long time. I think people that are very negative about Belieber are being a bit too over the top. Like Belieber has had a few different issues, a bit of an injury issue he's been carrying, but also Belieber's been playing deeper. And if anything, Belieber's just proved that he can play deep. He's winning his duels. He's effective. Brighton are actually a better football team this season. So I think that maybe Belieber's actually playing better for the team. I know people will like to be criticising him, but yeah, so brave to say we could beat. It's a one-off game. It's a one-off game. The thing I was thinking of, you've watched Man United play against Arsenal, and you've watched Man United play against City this season. And when we wanted to defend, when we've been compact and we sat in a 4-4-2 and been hard to break down, we've done that. Like we've managed to do that. So I think defensively we can be strong. But my point was going to be we carry more threat than Arsenal. Like since January, we probably scored more goals than Arsenal. We're a more threatening team. We can move the ball forward quicker. We're better. Like I think most people watching will agree we're a better counter-attacking team than Arsenal. That's my point. That we're quite good in one game situation, but we need more quality. We need to start getting players that can control games. So we got a certain quality, but it's not going to be. Yeah, we haven't got the same strength as Arsenal, have we? And that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build a bigger team, etc. So you did a bit of video editing, or you can. It's quite editing can be quite fun. It takes a long time though, like a really long time. Believe it's a must get in your opinion, says Randy. So I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? So yeah, I'm left-footed, so I can say that you definitely need more left-footed players. I would say this: we've got in Belieber. I think Belieber would be like a 95% chance if we had Ruben Amorim as manager. I think Man United maybe looking slightly away. Also, if Belieber played for a different team than Brighton and had a sensible price tag put on him, like at the moment, no one knows how much Belieber would cost. But if Belieber was at Bournemouth, I think Man United would be looking at this differently. I think there's definitely going to be a factor that if some players are too expensive, Manchester United will be no, this is too expensive, and they won't do this deal. So I think there's definitely a case of depending on the price is a factor. I know people will say you got to pay whatever it takes, but I think also you don't necessarily have to pay. If you think Alex Scott is a massive drop off from Tonali, then yeah, you pay the difference. But I don't think Manchester United see it that way. I think Manchester United look at the targets and they don't see a massive drop off between some of the top players. That's kind of how it looks from the outside. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I said exactly that as well. If you want to win 38 games, you want to be consistent. You need to have some depth. You need to have a lot of quality as well. You need to be um, you need to basically have a lot of options. With Arsenal, the thing that won Arsenal the league this season was probably that when they had a few difficult games and they had a few players missing with injury, they were able to bring a bit of quality off the bench. And even though Gyökeres didn't score loads of goals, but it still made the difference. Like Kyle Havertz is never prolific, and Gyökeres chips in with goals as well. And maybe Gyökeres scores against the crap teams as well, which is something that Arsenal needed to do, and it gets them over the line. That's effectively what Arsenal did this season. Arsenal got over the line, and the thing is also, if you look at the age of the players at Arsenal and the age of the players at Manchester United, we've got more players that will improve, like Aiden Heaven, Yoro, Dorgu. And if we got Mateus Fernandes, we got Belieber, or we got Alex Scott, these are all players that are going to improve as well. So we are building a team for the future, but it's more sustainable. Like we can't buy the finished article in every position because it's unrealistic. Like you're never going to spend that much money in one transfer window. So Estienne, yeah, I don't know. I like your comment, but I'm not sure how much. I'm not sure how much we see we got on this one. The Bastard says no negativity for Belieber here, but 70 million price. Now, most people's interest in Belieber came down to price as well. The thing is, I would say if Anderson joins Man City, then we beat Anderson. We beat Nottingham Forest quite easily recently. I'm not saying obviously they're different teams, but I don't think Anderson suddenly makes Man City unbeatable. He's a good player, but there is like a limit. And I think if you're looking at if you're looking at Tonali joining Arsenal, I think Tonali joining Arsenal makes Arsenal stronger than Anderson joining City. I think Tonali at Arsenal would be. I think you'd see a better version of Tonali. But yeah, Belieber is incredibly good defensively, but this is kind of my point in modern football that Belieber's been unreal defensively this season. I think dual win rate, he's way above Anderson, he's way above Tonali in winning back possession, but people don't really rate that. That Belieber has stopped making the runs as well, so I think that's why people are being less enthusiastic. What was your comment saying? Keane were both right. Are you talking about left foot and right foot players? Like are you saying, don't get carried away and aim for top four. Then I think Manchester United are trying to build like sustainably here. So in terms of like this, that when we're looking at trying, when people say we need to try and catch Arsenal, I don't think we can catch Arsenal in one transfer window, but I think we can definitely build towards like certainly the aim has got to be that Manchester United's financial situation at the moment. I know it's boring talking about football finances, etc. But when you're looking at Man United and how much we can spend on players, the difference is going to be if Manchester United can make sure, and with this window, and hopefully with Michael Carrick and the coaches, make sure Man United get top four every single season. Okay, that's not a target, that's a minimum expectation. So Manchester United used to be top four every single year under Alex Ferguson. And if you have that as your minimum, then you will be able to bring quality players in. If you're looking at a transfer window in, say, 18 months' time, or you're looking in 2 years' time, if Manchester United have been in the Champions League for 3 years in a row and we're getting closer and our squad is like more quality and we see everyone developing, top players will join Man United and Man United will be lifting trophies. So I don't think there's anything wrong in like being ambitious and trying to win the league. Like if for some reason the first 10 or 15 games we start amazing and we're in a title race, then for me get some extra quality in January if you think you got a chance of winning the title. But I don't think we should write it off. The same way that I don't think we should be thinking, right, we need to win the title next season or Carrick gets sacked. I think there's some middle ground here where Man United are just going to just buy players that make sense, and Alex Scott does make sense. Mateus Fernandes makes a lot of sense as well, and even like Belieber, that I know people are divided on Belieber. I think Belieber would make sense as well if you got him for a sensible price because you're looking at getting three people in as well. So the pressure on Belieber, I think people would say it'd be a bit of step up in pressure joining Man United. But it could be like Cunha and Buemo Sesko. They all cost about the same amount of money. No one talks about the price they cost because football is that way. And I think Alex Scott, even like Tonali, I don't think you necessarily would have to spend a fortune on players to then have a situation where people start scrutinising the price as well. So yeah, no, my aim is minimum top four, but every single for me, my aim would be and you've got to aim for top four as a minimum. But my aim would be look at what you did last season. The attack wise was clicking, so keep that goal scoring threat in the team. Keep that aggressive way of playing when we win possession. But if we can solidify midfield and we can like protect our defense a bit more because our defense was not making a lot of errors, but we were conceding a lot of possession. We were conceding a lot of shots from distance as well, and that was where we were getting hit, and that was where we were conceding goals. And if we can like have a more solid defense, so more solid midfield, protecting the defense somewhat, I think Man United can cut down the amount of goals we've been conceding, and that's going to be our way of improving. So if we can keep the goal threat, I think that will also we'll score more goals because Cunha and Buemo, Sesko, their relationship with Bruno Fernandes will improve. And Dorgu, again, is improving. So I think our goal threat will improve. And I think defensively, as a team, we can fix midfield a bit and make ourselves more difficult to play against. So I think that's how I see Man United improving. That we're going to be naturally improving because we fixed midfield with something we haven't done for ages. And yeah, no, target should be like for me, it's a higher points total, and we're not as far away as we were obviously 18 months ago. And if we look at trying to improve our points total year on year, and naturally, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, they're all looking to improve as well. But I think Man United's improvement could be quicker because it looks like we're starting to rebuild almost from scratch like a year ago, whereas Liverpool have got a lot of expensive profiles in that team and they're trying to work out the best way of constructing their team. I think Manchester United have almost had like it's almost like a clean slate in midfield. So this is actually in a weird way. I think it's a really good opportunity to construct a midfield squad from scratch. You've got Ko Mainu, I think, is the top quality player to build around. I think there's definitely exactly. I think this for Cohen. Like, don't write off Manchester United because Manchester United is definitely trying to get where it needs to go. I would also say this one. Where's the comment? Say Sesko needs to bang in 20 league goals. I don't think it matters too much. Arsenal won the league. How many goals did Gyökeres score? When you're looking at Man United, Cake, isn't one of the strengths of Manchester United historically that we just need to have a lot of goal scorers in the team. So if Manchester United if we can get 15 goals from Sesko, we can get like 10 goals from Bruno Fernandes. I'm talking like multiple competitions here. And Buemo, Cunha. For me, there's probably a bit of a question mark. I think Dorgu can get into double figures as well over a whole season. Maybe for me, there's a bit of a question mark over Amad Jallo and whether he's very good on the ball. Dribbling is very good. I think crossing decision making is not ideal, but I'm not sure whether Amad Jallo going forward beyond next season is going to be effective enough because I think Man United need to have more goal threat from their attacking players. So I think Benjamin Sesko will definitely score more goals. Like his goal to minutes ratio is actually quite impressive. So Benjamin Sesko will definitely be getting more goals, I'm sure. I think we need to see maybe more from Amad Jallo. I think even like Mbeumo will be hopefully whatever happened with Mbeumo the end of the season, hopefully that will improve as well. So no, I agree as well. I agree that Man United got overrun a lot in midfield, and that was definitely a problem. And it's something that we need to address, isn't it? That's why I'm quite relaxed about the transfer window. That the players we're buying are fixing our weakness. Like if everybody said, right, what's the weakness in Man United's team over the last 2 years? Everybody says midfield, and the transfer window is going to be largely aimed at fixing midfield. So I don't see a big problem with that one as well. Would I mind waiting 20 years for a Premier League title if it end with a quadruple? Um, I don't know. I'm not the most patient person, to be honest. But I don't know. I feel like we're building in the right direction, so I'm not overly concerned at the moment. That I think Agate's gone as well. So yeah, I'm not overly concerned. Um, good seeing the chat, Rob. So I quite like Unai. I think he's a good example. My voice is going for some reason. I think Unai at Everton, for me, is a really good example of a player. Don't look at his stats because he plays for Everton and he plays for David Moyes. If you're looking at Unai, I think he's going to be one of those. Like, I'm not saying we should buy him. I'm just saying I think he's a bit underrated compared with other wingers because he plays for a defensive-minded manager. I think when you put Unai in the team, he's really good at running at you, isn't he? He's a dangerous outlet for Everton. I quite like him actually, so I think he's a good player. I don't mind Rodgers actually either. If we could get someone like Rodgers that could play on the right, I don't mind him because he's got a goal threat. The only thing I'm concerned about is that I do agree with Cohen that if Sesko, Cunha, and Buemo can get a bit more, like a bit higher, and you're looking at say what 15 to 20 goals. Yeah, I think Sesko can get 15 goals. I think Cunha and Buemo could get close to that. It's always going to be a bit difficult because that they the numbers they put up for their respective teams before we signed them, then I think they definitely benefit from being a penalty taker. I think they can do that as well. Um, so if you're going to only get one of Lewis Hall or Tonali, who do you take? So easy answer for me, I'd take Lewis Hall. I think if you can get a left back in at 21 that can be your, I don't know, left back for the next decade, really good deal. But also, I think because of Tonali, Man United can get other players. Lucky, check the league table. We must have scored, but I think we scored the same amount of goals as Arsenal. Let me just quickly check that one because I'm pretty sure the difference between winning the league this season was our defense was just nowhere near where it needs to be. So Premier League football table. So Arsenal scored 71 goals. Man City scored 77 goals. Didn't win the league. Man United scored 69 goals. So we scored 2 goals fewer than Arsenal, and but we conceded 23 more goals than them. So we conceded way more goals than Arsenal. That's why we didn't win the league. And if you're looking at and our defence was comparable with Aston Villa and Liverpool, and the two teams at the top of the league. No surprise, their defence was the best by a distance as well. It wasn't close, and Arsenal's defence was significantly better. So defence won the title this season. Arsenal's goal scoring was pretty much the same as ours. The big difference was Man United's goal scored a year ago was something rubbish like 40 something, and I said that this team needs to score 25 more goals. I think we did almost exactly that. So we brought goals into our team. If we can get midfield into our team, I think we can surprise people. So I would not be too concerned with what I'm seeing in terms of this one. Our midfield's the weakest part of our team, and we're going to be fixing it in the summer. And if we got Lewis Hall, like I did just say, if we got Lewis Hall instead of Tonali, I don't mind at all. And I've got a Newcastle fan coming on tomorrow night. Hopefully, there'll be some stories regarding Newcastle players over the next maybe 24 hours, and then we can talk about that. So that'd be quite good. I think today at 1 p.m. I will be joined by a guest as well, so there'll be a slightly different midday stream. So there will have a guest on talking about Manchester United transfers with myself. That's going to be Dylan. So that should be a good stream as well. So thanks everybody for watching. And like I said, yeah, exactly. Defense. We need to fix our goals. Yeah, we need to fix our goals conceded issues. We're scoring enough goals to win games, but unfortunately, yeah, yeah, I would not complain. I would not complain. So I wouldn't complain at either cake. If Man United got Lewis Hall over Tonali, there's so many, so many. Big up to you, Yardi. Thanks for getting involved. And where does last hour go? Well, hopefully you've been enjoying it. So no, big up to you, Yardi. Thanks for the contributions you make on the channel with the comments as well. And thanks, Don in Spain as well. If you guys are able to share the stream, and if you just tune in at the end, able to rewatch any of it as well, it does help. But if you're able to share it with mutual football fans, then hopefully we can grow the channel back as it was. But then, guys, have a great rest of your day. I'm back live at 1 p.m. and I will catch you guys with latest Manchester United news at that point. Until then, take care and I'll see you soon.